Next up, we have the learner. They are here to learn something, trying to gain a new skill set. So whatever it is, they're here to try something new. They're usually programmers or artists, but in any case, if you're here with the goal to improve yourself, this is probably you. The socialite, maybe you're socially active. Usually, these are the people that I relate to, people who are friends that only joins the game jam if you join, or happy to join events just to get to know people, right? If you see the game jam as also a chance to network with people around, maybe this is your focus. And lastly, the shiny Pokemon. These are mentors. They come here to teach and nurture, and they are a godsend. They find purpose in helping the next generation grow and improve themselves. And usually, when they join game jams, they probably are the first three ahead, but they usually fall back into the fourth one because they're just that senior. Because everyone else don't know what to do, and you just like, okay, you know what? Let me teach you. Let me do this for you. So these are the rarest breed of them all. And if there are any of you guys in the chat, please know that you are the reason why knowledge passes on in casual events. These are the people you have to appreciate. If you ever see them in game jams, they are absolutely essential to fast tracking what you can know and what you can learn in game jams. So maybe you are a mix of them, right? And the more important question is, only you know why you're here. The question isn't about the starting point, because you've already started by joining a game jam. And the most biggest question to ask yourself, if you're just feeling lost in a game jam, which direction are you heading? And what is your actual goal of being in a game jam? I think this, when I pass on this question to people, they think about it a moment and they usually get their reasoning, whether they're forced to be here, whether they're here to just figure something out. They usually fall back into one of the four categories or classes of people. So not to worry if you're here joined by a gunpoint as a hostage. I'm sure you'll figure yourself out by finding a direction, because you will have to when you start the game jam. So next problem I have heard from a lot of people is they don't really have the knowledge in knowing what to do in a game jam. They know what they want to build, but they don't know how to execute it. They don't know how to build out the product itself, because you don't know what you don't know. You can't proceed on if you don't know which path you can even proceed. So first off, we start off, what is the definition of knowledge? Knowledge is facts, information, skills acquired through experience or education, blah, 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 Google Dictionary, right? But how do we obtain knowledge? Because even in the description itself is that you have to acquire them through experience or education. And I would suppose you are here for the experience and education. So knowledge is gained throughout life, and if you are not equipped with that knowledge, technically you are already in the right spot to gain what you need for the next time next time you're joining a game jam, right? So in your team, maybe there are these are four generic roles I will put as game jammers. The people who knows how to make assets are usually they fall back into the role of being the artist, the egg creator, the egg drawer. The one who knows how to make games, play a lot of games, knows how to do game design, watches Game Maker's Toolkit on YouTube. They usually become the designer themselves. They know how to make the egg. They know when it should be rounded or where it should be pointy or should be freckles, should be big or small. The programmer usually are the people who already knows programming. And even though they have never coded in a game engine, boom, you're suddenly, because you can think in programming, you are now doing programming. And that's usually what I see, programmers expanding their skill sets in the game engines as a programmer. And lastly, there are the managers, people who knows how to task manage. They are, even though they're not actually part of development, you would be surprised in why they are paid really well if you have not gotten a job yet, because project managers keep you sane from all the tasks that needs to be done. I just realized I put a very scummy picture here, but yeah, please ignore that. Yes, so knowledge gives us the ability to make informed decisions, right? And these informed decisions help us cater what decisions we need to make next that will help with our product. So how do we get our informed decisions? Well, step one is to prepare your resources. First, be informed. You need to know what are your strengths and your weaknesses. You don't have to do a SWOT analysis, but there are strengths and weaknesses of each team, and they are always all different. Maybe some people can't draw, some people can't program. You have an issue of the lack of skill sets. Maybe people won't be free, like after the second half of the game jam. You have an issue of time and scheduling, right? And maybe some people just can't use Discord, and you will have to find out a way to just communicate physically or use any other ways to communicate with them. Once you have this information yourself, then you can make your decisions, because all these questions are a question of scope. You have these as restrictions. What are you going to do about it? As a game jammer, you will face a lot of issues, and the biggest skill set or the biggest trait that you can ever have, actually even as a game developer yourself, is the trait of being resourceful. So even though you're given a very terrible scenario, there is usually always a way, even a free alternative, to solve the problem that you already have. So every team is different. Therefore, build the proper scope for your team, because the scope sets proper expectations, clarifies the goal of the team and the game, and defines your journey. So I've repeated it twice. The biggest problem of Game Jam is scope. It can destroy teams. It can make teams together. During a game jam, you have very limited resources. So understand where your scope is, where your reach is, and where your resources can help you with, or, put you in a pit. So step 2, face the unknown. Because if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have someone to tell you what to do, the next thing you will have to do is just face the unknown. You don't know what you don't know, so you have to go figure out what you don't know. Unless you're already a very experienced developer, you will encounter things that you do not know. But that's a good thing, because everything is an experience, right? We are going through life. There are definitely a lot of things to know. I'm not going to throw inspirational quotes, because you can already come up with inspirational quotes in your head about learning throughout life. But life is just a roguelike. You're collecting tool sets, skill sets that you can help on with your journey. So if you don't know the things that you don't know now, figure it out this time, and the next time when you join a game jam, you will make better and informed decisions. And therefore, you will have, like a graph, like stonks, you'll be going higher and higher, and you get better and better. So yes, moving on to the third problems of the mind. I'm afraid of disappointment. And flash news. So are we. I don't think anyone here is immune to disappointments from our parents, from our peers, from ourselves. But hey guys, here's an industry secret. Fail fast. Do not worry about disappointment, because could you ever remember a time that you have ever thought of someone else really embarrassing? Like, can you remember someone else who really are disappointing in the same scale? It's because no one really actually remembers more about our issues more than ourselves. So failing fast is one of the ways that we can do, if we can put that aside, to learn faster to better equip ourselves with, again, informed decisions. Nobody is immune to disappointment unless you have a God complex, but chances are we need to know better. And this is a safe environment for you to know better. Disappointments and being scared that you can't complete a product, it's very real, they're very valid. And sometimes some people just really can't take on this challenge, and that's okay. But slowly and surely, if we can overcome this hurdle, we will absolutely improve ourselves in the long run. Right. Every step of failure is always a step to success. And the point of life isn't to avoid mistakes, right? It's to learn your mistakes early. Fail fast. Do not fail too hard. Do not invest your money into minting things and Web3 games. But failing fast means learning fast, and that means you reach for the stars faster. Right. That was a lot. Finally, moving to the next section. Within your heart, we explore what is in the mindset of jammers that I see, and what we can do to better prepare our mindset and ourselves to tackle the challenge of a game jam. So obviously, for everyone that will feel this, is that we do not have enough time. We do not have enough time to build this game. And well, let me give you a scenario. This person here wants to make Black Myth Wukong, but better. But we all know, can you? Can we? Can he? Can them? Can they make such a big game in such a short time span? Is it even possible? The first thing popped in our head. So humans are absolutely terrible in estimating time, especially in things they do not know about. Even if you're experienced in game jams, most likely you'll encounter things that you do not know about before. And chances are, again, when people join game jams, they're here to learn, here to create. And usually when they innovate, you will reach problems. So, in a matter of fact, making games is all about just solving problems, one problem to the next problem. And one thing I like to describe my designers, it's just that they create the good problems, and the programmers have to solve these good problems, because these good problems give content and give weight to the game. So when these problems arise, we have to estimate better, and usually people are terrible at it. So project managers, they give a 30% buffer time to estimate all of this, because other problems can arrive after solving that one problem. So if you do not have enough time, make sure that you have calculated enough buffer times in making the game, and making sure that your problem, the biggest problem of all, your scope, is correct for the game jam. Don't try to make a AAA game in 48 hours. Don't try to make the entire Batman trilogy in 1 week. Understand your scope, understand your resources, because time is a resource. Don't push too hard, or else you or your team might break down, right? So next, I don't have the right team, and to that I just realized Canva have this neat feature, which is, oh fuck, that's a confetti drum roll. Yes, that's a skill issue. Next problem, which this problem kind of ties in with problem 2, which is not having the right team, is actually all a problem of expectations. Expectations can go many ways. It's a double-edged sword, and we as humans have expectations with everything around us, ourselves, our teammates, even our game jam hosts, right? We expect them to deliver a experience, and we would want to be part of that experience. But the team is a resource that is probably going to be harder to change and shift, because they're human, right? And they're much more tangible. The better strategy is again to define your scope and make sure that the scope is correct and proportionate to the team that you have. The problem of having the right team actually isn't inherently on the team themselves. It's whether the project fits the team in a game jam. Realistically speaking, in a team of 5, you're not able to make next AAA game in a game jam, but you can absolutely make something unique that is for yourselves and for your team. It can absolutely be the next indie hit. There's a lot of games that are famous, like Baba Is You, I think Papers, Please. Those games were game jam games, and maybe one day, if your game scope is appropriate to your team, you would see the expansion of it into the next indie hit. So I will urge you guys to check out, I think what I remember, Baba Is You, their game jam prototype. And when you compare to that game jam prototype to what you can actually make, you realize that expectations are not really high. It's actually really low. And Baba Is You's, Little Company too, Celeste too. Their game jam prototypes are actually pretty simple. It doesn't look exactly, no, it looks exactly nothing like what you can see today, but it's a prototype. And after the game jam, they realized that, okay, we can bring this further, and it became the next hit. So make sure you make something, a prototype, if you will build it. Make a prototype or a tech demo that, if it's strong enough, it would be the next hit. So lastly, I want to push this message on to the audience, and I guess your team as well, is always be kind to yourself. So some people might put them as like, I'm the most senior developer, and the mentors will put themselves in this state of mind. Be kind to yourself, because even though you may know a lot, you may be really capable, you cannot solve every problem. And I've seen in almost every other game jams, I will see at least one of my participants, they will be in this state where they just try to do everything themselves, and they were sacrificing sleep, sacrificing everything, and absolutely burn themselves out. In game jams, health has to always come first, because that is also part of your scope. If you cannot manage a proper workload for yourself, it's terrible in the long run. And for people who have went through absolute burnouts before, you would know how disruptive a burnout cycle can be to your productive cycle. And for some people, going into burnout, sometimes they never recover from coming out of burnout. It can be a traumatic experience. So please be kind to yourself. Do not push yourself beyond the limits, because we are all just humans after all, especially in the creative industry. Control your emotions, both negative, inward and outward, and keep them in check. Do not friendly fire. I've added this, I guess, as a point, because in my previous game jam, I realized when someone is in burning out and they were really stressed, right? They tend to release it emotionally outwards. And even though you're not actually scolding anyone, that outwards emotion can feel very negative to people. So let's not try to hit anyone in the midst of making game jam. Set expectations lower. If you can't make it, it's alright. It's a learning experience. Now you know better. Let's not try to ruin the experience for anyone else. Keep yourself in check, but also, again, be kind to yourself. Whew. Moving on, beyond your game. So, first off, I think a lot of people would feel, if they're not experienced, is the game feels a little bit too generic. It feels a little bit too simple to be I suppose, a proud product. A product that you can put on a portfolio and say, hey, I did this. But I think the most important question is, were you learning? Because usually when you make a generic product, it's usually because you were struggling to find how to make something work in the first place. Making a platformer, it can be simple because you didn't know how to make a platforming. You may have spent like the first half of the game jam into making the mechanics of it, the physics of it, and that is to be expected because you do not know how to do it. So then, now that you know how to make a platformer, again, the next time when you make a better platformer, and you can put your unique twist into it because you have learned. how to make a platformer better and faster. So the most important question is, if your game was generic, most of the time it's because you did not know what you did not know and you spent time figuring it out. So when you figure it out, congrats, you were learning. And you have learned, you can apply it to the next game. So I do think that a lot of people try to be really, really unique, and they really would really want to stand out. Like, oh, platformer, too generic. I'm gonna put platformer with battle royale physics and battle royale mechanics, and moon physics, realistic ballistic physics, and that's really beyond what a scope a game jam could have. Just trying to be unique, to be able to innovate, as I put on my slides. It requires a good understanding of the trend itself. It requires understanding of the mechanics itself. It requires an understanding a lot of things. No industry out there has that much of lateral connected industry as much as game jam. Game industry, sorry. You will need a lot of skill sets to be able to simulate one experience good. You want to do a good platformer, you will need to learn how to do physics good. You will need to learn how to do controls, your input controls good. You want to make a fighting game, like even multiplayer fighting game, you need to know how multiplayer works. You need to know how networking works. You need to know how rollback works and how even balance the game properly. A lot of things to make things, a lot of resources and privileges to be unique comes with a lot of learned experiences. And with that, it's also tied with my previous point, expectations. If you put yourself in a expectation to innovate beyond your current capabilities, it might be good to sometimes take a step back and think to ourselves, hey, should we humble ourselves a little bit more? Because we can realistically expect ourselves to make this kind of features without learning it. We can try to, there's no harm trying to, but it might not end up as the product that you have imagined. So if your game feels simple and you did your best and you can reflect on where you can improve on, you're just on the journey of becoming better. You are just improving slowly but surely into that dream game that you can make. So the next time you make the game jam, you're just making that ticking and short footsteps towards your goal. Don't burn out. Do not go quietly into the night. I just thought of that. Yes. Next problem. In all these problems, I think this is the biggest one because in my experience of all game jams that I hosted, especially the ones that are rated with judges as judging processes, people can't submit on time because they want to improve on the game itself a lot. And this has to do with a lot of variety of issues. First is like packaging and building. At the last 15 minutes, when you press that build button, that package button, it does not build nor package, and it fails, and you don't know why. And it takes 3 to 4 hours to fix that issue, and that can be very, very demoralizing. And I've seen entire teams break down because of this. Their internet speed may not be capable enough to upload a 60 GB game, or the game might not even work after packaging or building out. So once again, this is a matter of scope, the evil of submission. What, why, how? Why is scope related to this? And to that question, it's because scope also includes deployment, submission, and quality assurance. All of this, to make sure you have a deliverable product, requires you to understand that you must have a product at the finish line, not that you can assemble the product at the finish line. And assembling of products is what people estimate the worst on, because we can think that it can be really, really quick, but it can be really, really long as well. My own experience in I think, what was that game? Game Maker's Toolkit's Jam? GMTK's Jam. or shoot, I forgot what's the name. But in the game jam, I was making a Unreal Engine game. I was already experienced in making Unreal Engine games. I followed to my own rule, which is always build 6 hours before, and I submitted 5 minutes before the deadline. I could only submit 5 minutes before the deadline because I spent 5 hours and 55 minutes fixing the packaging pipeline, because apparently Microsoft updated a code which breaks Unreal Engine, and it took time. It took 5 hours to figure that out. It took 50 minutes to build that game, and it took 5 minutes to upload. It takes that long. And that's not to mention that, as Steve mentioned, that there are bugs, there are game-breaking bugs, or even maybe when you build WebGL, for example, when you upload to, I don't know, each IO or any basic place with each IO, you press the game to press start and it's a black screen and nothing else happens. And you do not know why, because Unity has a very specific step of building WebGL for each IO. And that goes the same with Godot as well. You have a specific option you have to tick, I think something like shared array buffers, to make sure WebGLs work on each IO. There are a lot of problems that come with deployment. So my absolute advice to this is, number one, always build and submit 6 hours before the deadline. Always submit early as much as possible, because I suppose you can update your submission before the time actually ends. Make sure the game works correctly on the platform you expect it to. And overall, it's good to have QA part of the game, the game pipelines, to make sure your game runs with the quality you expect to give. Yes, 1/3 of the game jam. Yes, absolutely. It doesn't have to be a complete game when you build it, but it's just to make sure in the process of building that game, it can actually build and not pop up a lot of errors, and you realize that at the start of the game, at the start of the code, for example, you have one code that determines the rest of the game, but also stops the game from building. You never know. And that has happened before. In 2 years ago, it's the team that broke down in front of me in the example I gave just now. Make sure it works, and that's my advice. It's just to build it and make sure you have a build, it works. In game dev industry, at least in my current career, we always have a build, and we are taking 3 years to build our current game, right? We have a build every day, 3 years consecutively. So that's, you put that and proportion it to the time scale of 48 hours. How many builds do you have to make? So think about that. Let that sink in. Open that door and let that sink in. Whew. All right. Last problem is I don't know how to show, and I couldn't fit the word present on this row because it's too long. So I'm just gonna say show, but what is better for me to say is I don't know how to present the game. And I thought about how to explain the philosophy for it, but I'm just gonna throw a bunch of checklists for you guys to prepare for a presentation. I think that you guys have a pitching presentation. It's number one, have a one breath summary of the game that describes it in a way that catches attention. So elevator pitch is called an elevator pitch because it's a pitch you can make inside an elevator. You never know. You walk into an elevator, and then Gabe Newell, founder of Steam, I think, yeah, co-founder of Steam, walks in. Hey, we just started a game publishing company, and we want to publish a game. And then you have that 30-second time frame to just pitch to Gabe that my game works. Put me in Valve's publishing right now. That is called the elevator pitch. A 30-second rule of text that catches attention and makes people be interested into your game. So, for example, in front of me, I think the right hand side one's already showed itself is Balatro. But the left-hand side, can anyone guess what the left-hand side summary is about if you don't look at the pictures in the background? Okay. Too fast. Okay. Yeah, it was Cult of the Lamb, but because it's very unique in a sense that when you look into it, talk about cult, talk about building a loyal community of woodland followers, you already know what kind of game it has already built in your brain, and you already associate it to that one very famous game. So it's all about building that imagination in people's head. People like to fill in the blanks a lot. And look at how they write the words. They say, start your own cult in the land of false prophets, not start a cult and be the true prophet, because it shows adversity. It shows there is a. I can give another hour of talk about how to build a very good elevator pitch, but in a sense, elevator pitches, there's ways to write your words to make it look interesting and make people want to ask more questions. And there are two types of questions, the good one and the bad ones. Good ones are the questions that people ask more about the game. Oh, what do you do there? How can we do this? How do we build a community? How do we play these poker games? The bad questions are them asking for more clarification of how the game works. For example, oh, what's a cult? What? Actually, I can't make an example of this because they're built really good. But essentially, bad questions are questions asking you to clarify more because you weren't clear enough in your pitch. So try to build an elevator pitch it to your family, your friends, and if they have questions they don't understand, that's probably a weakness in your pitch. So if you have time, try it out, check it out, and see the art of elevator pitches. This is your first impression of the game, and we all know first impressions matter a lot. Yes, next, if you're doing slides and presentations, show fun gameplay, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So you see right here, Batman Arkham Knight. What's the gameplay about? Dynamic fighting. You're feeling like a god. You feel like you're unbeatable, unstoppable, fighting a bunch of outlaws, prisoners who don't know anything better than themselves. You feel like you're not stuck in there with them. They're stuck in there with you. And fun gameplay can just be this 10-second short clip that you can have in the game. And that's the main meat of your gameplay. We know that, I guess, everything else might be incomplete because you don't have enough time to build the game. So instead of bringing the judges, if you're pitching, whoever you're pitching to, instead of bringing them through the entire gameplay of the main menu and whatsoever that might not be the main draw of your game, just drop a video and show them this is what the game is about and why it's fun. When people see it, they'll understand it. It's like the elevator pitch, but digital, because we can't synthesize out a video from our bodies. Wait, we can bring our phones. I don't know where I was going with this. But yes, show your fun gameplay if you're able to clip it. Make the fun accessible. This is for your submission, for your build, because chances are your judges are going to play your game. So I've seen a lot of, this is drawing from my own experience as well, for what I feel like my students award experiences, a learned experience that I have. Judges are not going to spend 5 hours trying to get to the fun part of the game jam, because they're humans. They have work, they have jobs, they have things to do, and they have a lot of submission to go through. So I saw a team that built a puzzle game that was pretty innovative. Actually, it's something I would play myself. But the best part, the best level, is the third level, which is the final level, but you have to go through the first two levels to get there first. And the first two levels is unfortunately a little bit boring. So what happened was the judges only played until 1.5 levels. They got into the second stage and they failed to pass this stage. They never got to the third level where the interesting mechanic kicks in. So I heavily recommend that if like your game has levels, either just unlock all of them and recommend them to play this level. And the first few are just tutorials, or not just contextual painting. But make sure when you have the main meat showed in the slides beforehand, make sure the fun is accessible relatively quicker, because people can't stay there forever. When someone joins to play your game, maybe a showcase, they're not gonna be able to stand there for 2 hours to play that game. They're just gonna, you have to capture their, I dropped my mic. You have to capture their mind, their brain, their interest within, I would say, a good rule of thumb, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But yeah, I will get back to Steve's question later. But yes, in your pitch, in your presentation, please be passionate. If you're not excited for your own game, would your players be? And I know that this is a crux to introverts, because you can hear from my presentation, I'm a terrible introvert myself. But we try to be passionate in the game you're pitching, because if the experience for you was not fun, if you're presenting a terrible product, you don't elicit the confidence that this is going to be fun at all, because you don't believe that it's fun. Chances are, if you actually believe it's fun, and even though no matter how niche that is, maybe you really, really like black and white, command line, text adventures, there is still going to be an audience out there. Absolutely confirmed. Whatever you build, if you like it, we are not that unique. There is definitely an audience out there that will like your game. So even though maybe we're not pitching for people that might like the game, remember to be passionate on and believe in the game that you have built. Believe that this will give fun to people, to the right people. And be confident, what better put it is to be confident that this game is fun and you should play it. Yes. Lastly is unique selling point, and that comes with a caveat is that if you're able to have a unique selling point, you will have to talk about why your unique selling point works. And if you don't really have a unique selling point, I would recommend not to mention this, because sometimes, like my previous slides before, if we're not able to make a very unique game, then we probably won't have that unique selling point. So if you have this in for the people who are able to have a unique selling point, then it's obviously an advantage to talk about it. Why is your game better than the rest? Why is the team implementation better than most people's implementations? We can talk about why you believe it works. Again, be passionate why it works. Be passionate on your unique selling point, and be passionate in your journey of getting to this unique selling point. I think a lot of judges in the game jams I was involved in, they were almost always sold by number one, passionate, a good pitch, and having a unique selling point that really confident in. When someone says, we believe that this puzzle game, we can build it, we're gonna deploy it to Steam, we really, really like it. We think this fulfills a niche in the market. We can expand more about it, we're gonna build it more about the game. They show confidence, they show that this is actually a unique selling point. I feel the judges themselves are convinced that, hey, even though they feel like this might not be very unique, they do a double take and realize, okay, let me consider it, because they feel like it's actually unique. Then maybe I should think again. They do a double take in consideration. So unique selling point, if you have it, grab it, and don't let go, and try to push it out whenever you can. But yes, that's all. I have used 45 minutes. That's an achievement for me. So I'll just go to Q&A section. So
Quite flexible in how we do this. What's the most important factor in putting together a game jam team?
Right. So I'll repeat myself. I think that's a little bit subjective, because of my first point that I made, right, is what and why are you here, and what are you here for exactly? So as for example, if I'm here to learn, I would like to have a team around me that helps together. They have the motive to learn about building something together. For example, if I want to make like an NPC system, I would like a team that are passionate in, hey, let's build a game that revolves in doing an NPC system. If everyone is on board of it, chances are I'm gonna learn a lot a lot about it because we're gonna help each other in learning this kind of stuff. Maybe I want to make in another example, maybe if I want to create something unique, a game that really stands out based on the theme that we're given, I would like a team that is creatively driven itself and also passionate in making this a reality. Making art together is something important to me then. So I suppose, what is your goal of joining Game Jam? That determines the team that you will probably want to be with.
I see. So it's kind of like setting expectations of your team almost. That's the most important factor. Getting the right people in with the right expectations.
I suppose so, yeah.
Gotcha. Uh, Another question is how, maybe this is already kind of covered earlier on. How would you define a game jam game as successful?
Oh, I think I have a second slide. Sorry, forgot. I just leave a slide there. But a game jam game to be successful, I would say is, as a jammer myself, I came out of the game jam feeling I have benefited. Not in the sense that maybe that I've built a game, maybe I failed to build a game, but I feel like I have gained something in this, gained something from an experience, whether it's experience, whether it's a new game on my portfolio, or whether it's I've just made better friends or I've improved my relationship with my friends in a game jam. I usually join game jams, like I've joined like 15 now, because I'm old, I can't join anymore because I get tired. But I joined game jams mostly at the start is I was a socialite in my own slides. I joined it for my friends because we just wanted to go. We're nerds. We are introverted. We don't want to suffer the outdoors, so we just go to game jams because I will always call it, game jams are just camps for game dev nerds. It's camping. I'm just going to the venue. I'm just gonna stay there and camp and figure things out. So that's my takeaway. It's successful to me. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because the success is based on what are you here for. If you fulfill that goal, it's successful to you already. That's a really good question. So I guess there are a few, I would say, checklists, but like they're not exactly like markings in my head, but it's just like good vibes that would like mark in my head. Is number one, I like games who are implement a theme creatively and wacky. So I like, as like Sophie, I like stupid games, things that just makes me feel, it makes it feel fun. It's wacky, it's stupid, it's not afraid to express itself. For example, I think and for C Game Jam 2019, the game theme was I made this from my phone. Now the theme literally was a phrase. I made this with my phone. And I remember I was kind of salty about it because, hey, that's not a creative restriction. I think that's a technological restriction because I can't run Photoshop or any other like stuff on my phone. So we were kind of forced to like build assets out of phone. I feel like it was technological, uh, a technological restriction. But I think I was kind of convinced otherwise when I saw other people's games. That number one, it's a fully built game. I think on a phone, maybe just built through a PC, but it's a game about a phone. I'm not sure if you heard of Simulacra or the phone games, the missing phone games where you go through apps and you have to figure out a story. That was one that made me realize, oh yeah, you can make that on your phone. Two, was another game. Like literally, the assets were made by terrible photographs taken by a low megapixel phone. So the entire game is like a visual novel, like a slideshow, but it's about a cockroach going on an adventure around the game jam venue, and you have pictures of people around and climbing, and the cockroaches like just climbing around people, and that won. They won the SEA Games award for the game jam. Yeah, that sounds disgusting and fun, but you play as the cockroach, so technically you are the protagonist. You basically play with people, and you have like branching paths of like, they basically walk around and they ask you, hey, can you do these poses for me? And then we're gonna do branching paths of you. Can you act like you're scared? Can you act like you're angry? And literally their entire game is just built from photographs and photo bash together. Yes, cockroach won. Yeah, don't be afraid. Be wacky. Make eggs with cockroaches.
That's hilarious. There's the third question that I have here, and I think it's actually also kind of answered already when it comes to the expectation setting. But I guess just for clarity's sake, the third question is: should you do something new in a game jam or stick to what you know?
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on what you're here for. Because usually you will do something new if you want to create something new, or we try to learn something new. And if you want to create a better game that you did before, then you will stick to something you will know. It's as simple as that.
All right, thanks. Any more questions from the audience?
I like how Ichronos put it on the chat, like creatively and wacky, and which is stupid. I suppose so, like creatively and sincere. I would say creatively is sincere as well. I think it's just parallel with Sophie's one, because to be creative in it, you have to be sincere with how you can bring the game about, right? You have to you have to be genuine with yourself and embrace yourself to be creative. Yeah. I didn't mean to say something so profound, but yeah.
Oh, that's existential suddenly.
Yeah. What was that? Who? I think like I missed like questions from you, like Steve and Ichronos, which is, what would you recommend scoping the game length to be? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? I think it's for a game jam, or if like for people to play game jams, I would say a good prototype demo would be 5 to 15 minutes. Anything longer, I think for game jam prototypes, especially people's goal is to play other people's games, people might just lose interest in that time span unless you really got a brain hook going on and you create the next Flappy Bird mechanic, but not Flappy Bird, of course. And Ichronos' question, which is, what is a unique selling point in a game context, or is it relative to games in the room? That's a very good question. I wanted to answer that. It's both, in a sense. You can either be a global unique selling point, which you better start running, because people are just like, holy shit, that's a unique selling point, I'm gonna use that now. But relatively, it can help. I think most of the unique selling points when I mentioned in my head was relative, because I just hosted a game jam recently. The theme was energy efficiency, and a lot of games were making games about electricity and lights, but there was a game about managing electrons as you move around on a circuit board, which is by numbers only. Technically, it looks like Sudoku, but you move on the numbers. It's just like a top-down view of moving on Sudoku, and the numbers determine where you can move. But I think it was much more unique, and they won like 3rd place, because it's just so much more different than all the other games, which is all about lights and turning off lights and games with light mechanics. So it can be both, I think the global unique selling point, that's just Sudoku with movement, but kind of unique in a sense. But in relative to the room, it stood out to the judges the most. And it didn't win the first, second place because it's the assets weren't that done pretty well because but it's kind of interesting because they really, when they spend time building this puzzle out of, I think, paint. So yeah, it worked. So Walla Babes asked, what is the best way to balance between gimmick and fun gameplay? Do you have to balance it? Why not? Why can't gimmick be fun? Right? I think it can be both together. I don't think they're like on the same seesaw. When you put one down, one goes up. I think they both can be fun. Essentially, when I mentioned wacky games or creative games, it can also be games with a certain gimmick that makes it fun. So the best way, I would say, if we want to try to balance between it, is does your gimmick make it feel like a chore to play? It's a good thing to, like, if you look into Souls-like games, right? The gimmick is that you die very fast, but there is fun among it because the fun is for you to achieve when you beat that character, beat that enemy. And that gimmick also loses a lot of potential audience, especially the casual audience. So it's for you to determine who is your target audience and what should you build that gimmick/fun for. Yes, I hope that answers your question.
Any more questions from the floor? If not, because we're looking at 7 p.m. already, actually. Any more final questions? Going once? Going twice? Sold! Okay! Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for giving us this insightful talk. I'm sure everyone, definitely including myself, have learned a lot on how to survive in the apocalypse, which is the game jam. Even like for myself, like I think one of the most interesting things that I've learned, I think, is like when you're kind of joining a game jam, it's probably more important to put together a team first before you even decide to scope. I think that's the very interesting thing, right? You know, you put together the team, then you set the expectations with everyone. Only then do you decide, oh, okay, let's make this. I think that's very interesting for me.
Yeah, I would think that's the best case for like people advice, because like after the game jam ended, the people still remain. So don't burn bridges, guys.
Yeah.
I'm saying that from experience.
A lot of networking happens in the game jam. You don't even realize that you're actually also like learning who are the best teammates to bring in your future studio. And we even have like you even like meet other people from other teams, and like you turns out they're really good, and you could even invite them on board onto your team after the game jam ends, and you make a studio out of multiple team members. That's even possible too. Yeah, team poaching. That's right. That happens. Okay, with that, thanks, John. To everyone in the audience, stay tuned for more news of potentially upcoming talks leading up to the big jam. You might have seen some teasers about who's might be giving the next talk. The details are still in the hush-hush. But yeah, keep a watch out. We'll be releasing more official details soon. Of course, taking this opportunity to like thank our supporters, partners, collaborators, friends, and anyone else not mentioned whom helped make this possible. That's it. Thanks everyone. Have a good rest of the night. Is there another talk? Yeah, there might be next week. Keep a lookout. And yeah, thanks everyone. Have a good night. Thanks, John.
Enjoy the jam, guys. If you guys need anything, just send me a message on Discord. Chronically online anyway.
And good evening.
Good evening, guys. See you guys. Enjoy. And thank you for the opportunity, Steve.